Hey there, everybody. I'm going to try this one more time. Something happened where my Zoom crashed while I was recording, and then it installed a whole bunch of updates, and hopefully that is going to fix whatever problem we had. And I'm just going to start right at the beginning, kind of go back to the beginning of this presentation and really talk about. So we're going to run from about 1:15 p.m. Eastern time to 1:30. So about 15 minutes is our typical Motivation Monday. And I'm going to just start right from the beginning again. And I started talking about how, when we're looking at somebody who's an employee, and is having performance issues, one of the first things we try to assess is this a motivation issue or is this a training issue? It's a motivation issue, then we need to focus on the motivation, right? If it's a training issue, we need to focus on the training, and the training issue being perhaps a lack of knowledge, a lack of understanding of how to do the job or parts of the job. When it comes to a job search, I kind of think that we should do the same thing. We should ask ourselves, is this a motivation issue or is this a training issue, a knowledge issue? We know it's a knowledge issue if you're actually really engaged in the activities that lead to job offers. So if you're spending time interviewing, you're spending time practicing interviewing, you're spending time networking, you're spending time, you're applying to jobs, you're spending time tweaking your resume to apply for jobs, right? Most of your time is being spent on activities that yield interviews. Then we would say that the issue is not motivation. You're motivated. You're out there applying, right? You're out there tweaking resume after resume. You're out there creating those cover letters. You're out there networking. You're out there following up after you network, after you interview, after you apply. You're out there doing the activity. The issue really might be for you that it is not a lack of motivation. You're highly motivated, that rather it's a lack of knowledge. And I have seen this in so many clients over the years. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've helped over 42,000 people. And let me tell you, I helped a whole crew of people where they were just really messing up on the job application. They were literally doing things on the job application that was keeping them from getting interviews. And once that was addressed, the interviews started coming in and then the offers started coming in. So the problem there wasn't motivation. They were motivated. They were discouraged a bit, right? Because they weren't getting results. And sometimes when you're discouraged, it can reduce your motivation. That's understandable, right? Because one of the ways we get motivated is because we see these results, these changes, this impact to what we're doing. But if you're in a situation where you're making all these mistakes on the application and you're just not getting the interviews, and so you're not getting any offers, sure, it can affect your motivation. But it is really fundamentally a lack of knowledge. And I've seen people who had resumes that were really great for jobs they used to apply to. And they did well for them in those kinds of jobs. But now that they had shifted gears, now that they were going, let's say, for remote jobs, or in the past they went for on-site jobs, or now that they were looking for jobs in a different level in the organization. They were looking for entry-level jobs. Now they were looking for mid-career, or mid-career people now looking for senior-level jobs. They weren't getting the results they used to get with this resume or this cover letter or this LinkedIn profile. And they really needed to shift away from using materials that were good for past job searches to materials that were effective for this current job search, right? You might have this fantastic resume and this fantastic cover letter and this fantastic LinkedIn profile that's fantastic at getting you interviews for teaching jobs. But if you don't want to be a teacher anymore and you're trying to make a change to be something else, then you're probably going to need something else when it comes to the resume, the cover letter, and the LinkedIn. And that's what I found, that was to me a lack of knowledge, because once they started to understand that, and that coupled with their motivation started getting them the interviews and the offers that they were looking for, right? I've also had clients where the issue really was interviewing. So they would get the interview, but they were unable to turn that interview into an offer. Either they couldn't move on from round to round, they get knocked out in the running, or they were excellent at moving on from round to round, but they were not so strong in their interviewing that they were the one offered the job. And I have to say, once they strengthened those interview skills, when they knew what to say when somebody said, tell me about yourself, or they knew what to do when somebody said, tell me about a time when you showed leadership, and they knew what to do when somebody said, tell me about this current job and why you're leaving it, or why do you want this job? Once they had that all practiced and organized, they were incredibly successful. So I want you to think about yourself, and is this really an issue? Is what's holding you back motivation, or is it knowledge? And how do I know that? How do I know which one it is? Well, just ask yourself, what did you do last week? Were you applying? Were you following up? Were you networking? Were you tweaking resumes for applications? Were you doing the work? And if you were doing the work, then more than likely, it is not a question of motivation. Okay? It's a question of knowledge. You need to gain some additional knowledge so that the work that you're doing is effective, is impactful, that it gets the kind of results that you're after, which are interviews and offers. No question. I have a joke that I sometimes say, it can't be a great resume if it's not getting you interviews and offers. That's a signal that it needs to change, right? That's a signal, because the purpose of a resume is to get you interviews and offers. It can't be a great LinkedIn profile if it's not getting you contacted by recruiters, because the purpose of it is to get you contacts from recruiters. That's the whole point of it, really. So, ask yourself that. Now, for some of us, the issue really is motivation. When we really look back at our activity last week, we realized very little time was actually spent on this dream of ours to get this dream job. We look back on what we did on last Monday and last Tuesday and last Wednesday and last Thursday and last Friday, and we realize that, maybe out of all those hours, we spent 10 minutes or 20 minutes or a half hour truly engaged in work that leads to interviews, that the majority of our time was spent elsewhere. We were watching videos or reading blogs. You could watch 800 hours of videos. You're not going to get an interview from watching a video. You could watch 1,000 hours of videos. You're not going to get an interview that way. You could read 10 blogs, 100 blogs, 1,000 blogs. You're not getting an interview that way. And if that's really where your time is being spent, then it's a signal to you that you're not really doing the kinds of activities that lead to interviews. And that is an indicator that there may be a motivation issue. It's not a knowledge. You know what you're supposed to do when it comes to applying. You know what you're supposed to do when it comes to interviewing. You know what you need to do when it comes to your resume or cover letter. You have all of the knowledge. You're just not engaged in the work. And sometimes it sort of really starts with, am I unmotivated in every aspect of my life? Is this just one of 12 areas in my life where I'm not motivated to do what I know is best for me? So I'm unmotivated at work. I'm unmotivated in my home life. I'm unmotivated in my health, everything, my finances. My whole life is lacking focus and action to improve it. And I say, if that's the case, if it's everything in your life is sort of a little bit off kilter and not where you want it to be, then you might really need to get some professional support to help you with this, to help you dig in there and try to figure out, well, what's the obstacle that's keeping me from moving forward? If it's just your job search and you're really basically motivated in every other area of your life, you're working out regularly, you're eating right, your finances are in pretty good shape. I mean, maybe you lost your job, but in general, they're in good shape, right? Your home life is in good shape. You're keeping up with the laundry, keeping up with the grass, like doing everything else pretty much on track in your life. But there is this one area of your life, your job search, where you can't seem to get on it on a daily basis with enough consistency to get results. Well, then you might need some help, like something from like JobMorph. And that's what we really specialize in, is giving you support and help in that kind of situation. And I understand that, it can sometimes be unclear to you whether you have a lack of motivation or a lack of knowledge. I understand that. It's one of the reasons that when I created JobMorph, I packaged it all into one area, where I said, what? It might be a lack of motivation and it might be also a lack of knowledge, right? It's a possibility that both things are at play here that are keeping the person from going forward. So let's just put it all into one giant package and give them tools for motivation and knowledge as well, right? Like both areas to help you foster and support both areas. So I want you to really think about it, because I feel like if we have a goal, an aspiration, an objective, and we're working towards it. We're making efforts each and every day to work towards it, and we're working towards it in a smart way, then we will achieve those results. I know that because I've seen it for 30 years. I've seen people with goals that were, very difficult to achieve. People wanting to be a CEO or a CFO or a CMO. And, hey, there's only one of those in each company. And a lot of companies don't even have those people because they're not really big enough to have those roles, right? Like they don't have a CMO, they don't have a CFO, they don't have a CPO. Those titles just don't exist because the company's too small. So the opportunities are few. And I've seen people find those opportunities and nail them and get offers and be very successful in their careers. I've seen individuals have very specific dreams in terms of what they want to do as a job. I want to do a job that's in this city, with these hours, with this kind of pay, with this job title, and nail it. All of it is achievable if you are motivated and you have the knowledge. All of it is achievable. No matter how, ridiculous or challenging or impossible it may seem to achieve what you want to achieve, I can assure you that you can achieve it with motivation and knowledge. So long as you're not, you're doing things in a way that increases the chances of success. In other words, you're not hurting yourself. And so long as you're motivated, you're making the effort on a consistent basis, you'll land where you want to land. It usually takes people longer than they think or longer than they want. That's not an unusual thing in some of these job searches that are incredibly difficult to achieve. People think that they can get a CEO offer in 60, 90 days. They have an idea in their mind. That's how long it's going to take. Well, it's usually longer than that. Whatever arbitrary number they put in their mind, it usually takes longer than that. But it does, it happens. And that's the most important thing to remember, is that it happens and they get the result that they want. So I invite you today, think about it for yourself. Think about, is this an issue of motivation for me, or is this an issue of knowledge, or maybe it's both? And, work in the area that's holding you back first. If motivation is holding you back, focus on your motivation. If knowledge is holding you back, focus on your knowledge. If it's both of those things, consider something like JobMorph to help you. Or even if it's one of those two things, consider something like JobMorph to help you. There is no shame in getting help to achieve a goal. I don't think there's anyone who hired a personal trainer should be ashamed, right? They sought help to achieve their goal. I don't think anybody who hired a coach, a training coach, or who brought a dietitian, or joined a weight loss program, or got a financial advisor, or got or engaged an insurance person to help them select their proper insurance for themselves, sought out a professional guidance. I mean, in all those cases, it's somebody seeking out professional guidance to achieve a goal. And I don't think there's any shame in that. I don't think there's any reason to think that's bad. I actually think that's a good sign that if you, go and get what you need by getting support, there's nothing wrong with that. So, go and get the help you need if that's really the issue. And I'll see you here next week for another issue at Motivation on Monday. And sorry about the technical difficulties. Hopefully you get the recording with the full recording in it. Have a good day. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.